Stop making winning fights in Fortnite harder than it needs to be. Winning fights doesn't take insane mechanics. It's about using these 7 tips that all pros use to win every fight. These tips will instantly change the way you fight and make you 100 times harder to beat. The first decision you got to make if you want to become a slower but more methodical fighter is turning edit and release off or on. Turning edit and release off might be a good option for you, and I'll tell you why. But you can still get good with both settings, so don't worry. But if you want to be a slower but a smarter fighter that uses their brain a bit more, turn edit and release off. Doing this forces you to be more deliberate with your edits, use your brain more, and will improve your crosshair placement when doing peaks, and I'll show you how. So as you can see here, I usually play edit and release on, but let's quickly switch this off and I'll show you the benefits of having it off. So the first benefit to having it off is actually your crosshair placement. Let's say you just took this wall on your opponent and you're going to make a peak. On edit and release off, you can press F, select the peak you want to do, hide behind the grid. As you can see here, there's these grayed out lines. Hide behind this, adjust your crosshair so it's on your opponent, press confirm, and then jump at the same time, and that'll be a easy peak. However, with edit and release on, you have to press F and you have to keep holding select and look all the way up there. So then when you release, you have to jump and flick back down, and this makes hitting shots a bit harder and also will make your crosshair placement worse. Also, it can technically prevent you from making open edits, because with edit and release on, you don't really have too much time to think when you're doing free builds, but with edit and release off, obviously your free builds are going to be much slower, but this can actually help because it can give you some thinking time. Point number 2, peaks. There are a couple main peaks you need to master, like the top right corner peak, the bottom right corner peak, and also the window peak. But there's a couple of extra things I want to go over with peaks that people do not talk about very often, and one of them is using different peaks for different situations. So let's pretend your opponent is in the back right corner of this box, or the back left corner of this box, sorry, and you need to do a peak. Doing the top right corner peak will probably be your best option, as they're all the way back there and you'll have a very good angle on them and they'll have literally no chance to shoot you. But let's say they were standing in the bottom left corner here. Doing this peak will not help because they'll be fully behind the wall and can either jump out and tag you, or they can just sit here for cover. So in this situation, the peak I'd recommend doing is the bottom right corner peak, and this will allow you to tag their toes. But this is something I see hardly anyone doing, and they don't really think about where their opponent is positioned in the box before they make a peak. They just kind of do this peak over and over and over. Also, this is kind of part of peaks, and this is when you're pushing a box. So say your opponent is in this 1x1 here, never push from directly in front of the wall, and never double swing your pickaxe. You want to always push from a diagonal box away. So you want to create your own box, make sure you have your roof, make sure you have your floor, and all angles are covered. And you're going to create a box outside of their box like this, and make sure you place a cone, and all you're going to do is either use your AR, or you're going to try and do jump pickaxes, but they're a little bit harder to time because sometimes you'll do it too early and you'll hit your own thing. But you're going to diagonally push the box, tap with your AR, maybe use your pickaxe, and once you take the wall, what I see a lot of people do is jump directly into this box and then do a peek from here. This can work and does work, but I would rather recommend you to do a long piece, and that's for a couple of reasons. One of those being that you're further away. You're also at a weirder angle and your opponent is probably not expecting it. And that can also obviously be used in combination. So when you push a box, don't ever push from the front. You come to the side, build your own box. You want to diagonally push it, use your pump, use your AR, grab the wall, and then do a long peek. And this all just combines into one thing. And lastly, I'm going to quickly show you how to practice your peaks. So the code at the top of the screen is Raider464's mechanics map V5. If I could only ever recommend you one map in the whole Fortnite to practice, it'd be this map 100%. But you can either choose 2 ways to practice your peaks. You can either go to the P section or the comp section. I'm going to quickly go over both. The P section, if you're practicing peaks, you need to put peak practice on and put the bot health to either 100, 100 or 180. And then you're going to press play all. And whilst you're going through this peace control tunnel, there'll be walls you have to break, and eventually you'll get to your opponent here. As you saw, I just took damage. This is because I'm open to the opponent, but if I did a good peek, I wouldn't get damaged. As you can see here, I can hit him, but he can't hit me. And that's a way to teach your that's a way to practice your peaks. Also, as you can see here, this is a perfect situation to practice your long peeking. The tunnel will just come up here, and you've been put in this situation. And what I used to do, and I see a lot of people doing, is just going straight into this box and doing a peek from here. But that's the worst option. You want to do a long peek, hold your builds out as well. A long peek, edit this, and there you go. This is probably a better peek. And even if they do jump into that box, they're still one box away, which then allows you to grab that. So that is another benefit of doing those long peaks. And the second way you can practice your peaks is going to the comp section. You can either just walk in there, or you can press this little controller and press comp. Go to the peak training, which is right here, and then press start. Put difficulty to whatever you want and bot health to whatever you want. Preferably on the higher side though. I usually like to go 180, and this will be very similar, and I would say better if you're purposely trying to focus on just peaks, because it won't make you spend time building up to it. And it also puts you in situations that you'll probably get into, and this is one of them. This is another example of a long peak. So what you're going to do is you're going to edit a peanut butter like this, hold your builds out, edit the wall like that, release, and then you can take your opponent, and you can do multiple different peaks with long peaks. So thirdly, being ready for instant edits. Players will instant edit on you constantly, even more so now simple build is in the game. So let's say you're above your opponent's box and you jump down onto the wall like this. You don't ever want to come down with your pickaxe out, because they're very likely to instantly edit this wall and just try to shoot you. A lot of pros will jump down, and they'll do this purposely because they know their opponent will do it. They'll purposely jump down to make their opponent instant edit, but they'll have their pump out and they'll instantly just tag them because they know they're going to do it. But if they don't, maybe try fake pickaxe. So to fake pickaxe, you need to hit the wall and bring out your shotgun instantly. Like that, and this can work really well because they're going to believe that you're going to pickaxe the wall, so they're going to try and do an open edit, but then you bring out your shotgun and you just tag them very, very heavy. Be careful though, because this can be risky. Let's say you bring out your pickaxe and they edit at the same time, they will tag you, and you're most likely not going to be able to tag them back if they can reset quick enough. But it can also lead to you ending fights so quickly, and pros like Peterbot and Coldfv do this all the time to end fights in seconds, and this is how they drop such high kill games. Next, learn your opponent's patterns. So every player has habits. If they do the same thing every time you place a ramp in the box, counter it. Three-piece their most likely move, and this is called behavioral prediction, and it's what separates smart fighters from mechanical ones. One I like to do a lot, especially in ranked games, is let's say my opponent is boxed up and he doesn't have a cone in his box. The first thing I would do is break the wall, and I would place a ramp. And I know a lot of people place cones, and this is a good option. I like to place a ramp because I know how this forces a player to think. I place the ramp in their box. If they land underneath the ramp, the first thing I'll look for is if they're going to edit down. And if they do edit down, I'm going to try and pre-piece them. I'm not going to jump down there. I'll try piece them from above like this. And if they have jumped in the box, then I might jump down and do a peek, or I'll take a different wall like this. But if they haven't jumped down, that makes me think, okay, he doesn't like to go down, and I'll look at which direction he went out from, and I'll expect that next time. But let's say when I placed the ramp in his box, he did drop down, and I didn't get to pre-piece him fast enough. Next time I do this, I'm going to make sure the first thing I do is pre-piece the bottom just like this. And I'll probably make an angle, and most likely we'll be able to take him out. This isn't just with when they drop down. This is with everything. If you see them instant editing over and over and over, you can use that against them. If you see them going out the top over and over and over, you can use that against them. If you see them doing the same free build over and over and over, you can use that against them. You just got to use it in different ways, and it's just about understanding and learning your opponent's behavior whilst mid-fight, and this is something that pros do that most average players can't. And that leads me on to the fifth point, which is look at what your opponents are doing. Most players don't actually check when one box away from their opponent, if they have their builds out or if they have their pump out. But seeing this can actually let you know what your opponent's next move is going to be. So let's say I'm boxed up and my opponent is pushing my wall from over here. If I see them drop down in front of my wall with their pump out, I'm obviously not gonna just straight up instant edit. But if I see them drop down with their pickaxe out and go to swing with their pickaxe, I'm then obviously going to do some sort of instant edit, whether that's a peek, whether that's not a peek. I might even do an open edit in that situation because I can fully see that he is going for a pickaxe swing here. Let's also say I've accidentally boxed up without a cone in my box, and I see my opponent standing outside the box with his builds out. I can fully expect him to place a cone or a ramp inside my box as soon as I open an edit. So the first thing I would do is place a cone in my box and then make an edit. And this will throw your opponent completely off. So just looking if your opponent's got their shotgun out, their builds out, or their pickaxe out will make a very big difference into what your decision should be with that fight. Sixth, master pre-fires, especially for defensive situations. If your opponent tags you for a lot, they are likely to put on a lot of pressure. Bad players will spray right in front of your wall, and this is perfect for pre-fires. This works insanely well on getting a shot off on them to make them back up so you can heal, or sometimes even end the fight with that pre-fire. So once again, in Raider 464's map, there's a section in the comp that is actually pre-fire practice. Press on this, and this is the best way to practice your pre-fires. You'll get so many repetitions, and it'll be such realistic situations, and you can just keep doing this over and over and over. As you can see, it's not just from one angle, it's from all different angles. Finally, faking edits. Fake editing is basically just making an edit to throw off your opponent. This misdirection works because most players aren't used to their opponent doing something like this. Master this, and you'll catch so many opponents off guard consistently, especially if you're doing it fast enough. And I'll quickly show you the one I like to do, and that is, let's say I'm boxed up in a very high pressure situation, and maybe I've been tagged for quite a bit, and I've tried to pre-fire and it's not worked, and my last resort is to do a fake edit. The one I like to do is I'll pretend to edit out. As I get to about here, I'll reset and then do a peek, and this is very, very, very good because a lot of bad players will actually just edit out like this. That's actually probably the most common way for bad players to get out of a box. So they obviously assume that I am not the greatest player since they've already tagged me quite a lot. So me faking, going out the top, and then resetting is actually a great way to throw them off guard. And that will just send them looking up here, even though I'm edited out here. But you could do this in so many different ways. You could pretend to box out to the side and then edit here. You could pretend to try to do a pre-piece, pretend to go up and then actually go out the front. You can do so many different things. Even with free building, you could pretend to go for some sort of double edit play here and then go out the side. Anyway, these 7 fighting tips are the foundation of pro level fighting, and if you practice these enough, you'll instantly see a massive change in the way you fight.